Greetings from Costa Rica, and thank you very much for joining me on our live Friday Costa Rica Matt Show. Today, we're actually not talking about real estate specifically, as I tend to do. We're talking about my top 5 incredible experiences living in Costa Rica, and specifically here in Guanacaste, the northwestern province of the country. I was fortunate enough to move here in 2008. My girlfriend at the time had just broken up with me, and I signed up for the Peace Corps. I was able to come and live and initially spend 2 years living and working in a very rural, humble village here, not far from where I live today. And I just wanted to reflect on some of the really amazing things that I've been able to do in 16 years of living here. Now, obviously, I am also the father of 2 absolutely gorgeous boys and husband to a gorgeous wife. I'm not going to be talking about how amazing it was to watch them get born here, how amazing it has been to raise a family and establish my, family here. Instead, I'm going to be focusing on stuff that quite possibly you could enjoy if you wanted to really engage in Guanacaste, but also wanted to share some very positive anecdotes, things that made me fall in love with this area, and sort of that I feel give people a better idea of what makes it so special. If you did not know, I am a Guanacaste real estate broker as well. If you're out there looking for a complete guide on the Guanacaste real estate market, you should go to CostaRicaMatt.com. There you'll have the option to either download my VBook by clicking on the VBook icon, or you'll be able to take a tour of this area by clicking on the virtual tour icon. It's a pretty easy website to navigate. That VBook has 20 videos and will be a growing number of videos as well about real estate, moving here, and specifically those topics. Without further ado, I want to start talking about my top 5 incredible experiences living and working here in Guanacaste for 16 years. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns that you want to chip in, whether you're watching live on the chat or after the fact, do be sure to post a comment, give me that like. Everything helps Google recognize just how top quality my videos are. So first and foremost, my absolute top incredible experience, if I were to bundle one thing into a single experience, it would be easily living with a Guanacaste host family for 2 years, and specifically, not just any Guanacaste host family. I have to say that it was an incredible experience to live with this Guanacaste host family. To my right, you can see a picture. This was actually taken after Peace Corps. Here you're looking at several people from my host family in Peace Corps. On the right-hand side is Don Atilano. Here is Doña Lydia. They were my host parents. One of their daughters, Isabel, also lived with us in the home. Their daughter, Doña Alice, is pictured here too. They're holding Jonas, my first son. So this was a long time after Peace Corps. But Don Atilano and Doña Lydia absolutely received me in their home like a son. They treated me like a king for the 2 years that I lived there. And I was exposed to some pretty amazing stuff living with them. They are true Guanacastecos who still cultivate a lot of their own food. Don Atilano still produces a ton of his own corn. They always have chickens, lots of animals. They're still a part of our lives. We've been very fortunate to continue our relationship with them. And being able to live in their home, learn about what they do, and get acquainted with everything from their food to their animal husbandry to their religious ceremonies was one of the biggest treats of my life. Here you can see our community at a meeting back in Peace Corps. This was in a town called La Florida, where a lot of people were still really sort of living off the land and working, in agriculture. I did a ton of work with the elementary school. Here I am with their 30-person student body. I actually, one of the things that I got to do while I was living with this host family was start a small band project. People had donated instruments to our school. And at the very end of this video, you will get to see one of the snippets of an actual, I'd have to say, top 5 moments from that Peace Corps experience where we play a live concert for a roaring audience at a soccer game in this band. So yeah, I was really fortunate to be in such an incredible community. I got to live with a family that was themselves very special. Their combination of still, very old school living, but the way that they took me in was incredible. And I highly encourage people out there, if you have those opportunities to get to know some of these families, they are everywhere in Guanacaste. And still, after 16 years living here, the things that I learned from them, the time that I shared with them, has to be the top sort of incredible experience that I've had so far. Second on the list, I want to talk about owning a horse, learning to ride one, and near-death experiences in general. And it's somewhat important here to touch base or to explain a little bit about who I was before I came to Costa Rica. I had grown up in a suburb of Indianapolis, Indiana, on your typical perfect neighborhood home, with a 1/4 acre. You've got the backyard and front yard. I don't think, we had cats and dogs, but this was leave it to beaver, white picket fences, and very much that suburban living that didn't involve anything related to farming, animals, etc. While I was in Peace Corps, thankfully enough, because I was living with Don Atilano and Doña Lydia, they had some land available, and I was able to buy a horse and somewhat learn to ride it. I won't say that necessarily I learned in an expert way whatsoever, but here I am on my horse, Gallo Pinto, which is, yes, not a very clever name for a white and black horse in Costa Rica. Obviously, it was a joke on rice and beans. And I had some pretty awesome adventures on Gallo Pinto. In fact, one time we set off for a trip down to Playa Junquial. I was leaving from my Peace Corps community up in the mountains down here, and I tried to cross a river when I was still a very inexperienced rider. In fact, I think it was the first time I had been on a horse by myself with no one else. And we nearly drowned. Essentially, I tried to pull the horse out of the river way too late. He ended up kicking and thrashing. We found our way to the other side of this river and made it out. And thank goodness, across the way, there was a rural, really old farmhouse. I was able to go over to the farmhouse, and we eventually got the horse back over the river onto the side I needed to be. But I almost drowned on Gallo Pinto in that circumstance. Another time, he decided to take a bath in a river while I was walking back into town, and a lot of people were watching us. He walked into the river and thought it'd be nice to sort of roll over and take his bath. So he did that with me on him and with a lot of people watching in town. Never lived that down. That was very a big thing that people were talking about in town for a long time. Remember when Mateo's horse took a bath with Mateo riding it. And we also Anne-Marie and I also got into a thunderstorm situation towards the end of my Peace Corps stay. Wow, I could actually go on and on with the horse stories. There's also the time I nearly fell off because I had spooked my own horse by waving my own hat around. Suffice it to say, I was able to own a horse for 2 years that I would have never, ever done in Indiana. And this is an incredible place to take slow horseback rides through the countryside. Guanacaste has thousands of kilometers of old farming roads. And for horseback riding, it can be pristine, perfect countryside where really what used to be a road and what was supposed to be meant for cars is perfect for exploring on horseback. One time I had one specific moment I want to mention, and I don't have a good picture of it. A few guys in town invited me to go shellfishing at night. So we lived about 10 miles from the beach. We had to saddle up our horses, sort of as it was getting dark. We rode them out to the beach, spent the night at the beach looking for shellfish that the locals always went for. And we basically spent the night at the beach shellfishing. I saw my first ever turtle laying its eggs that evening. We ended up sort of camping out overnight because we really wanted to let the tide go out. And overall, it was just one of the most spectacular moments that I've had. That was during Peace Corps for sure. And it's one of the things that absolutely will never, ever leave my mind. Before I go on to numbers 4 and 5, the incredible experiences I've had while living here in Guanacaste, I want to take a quick moment for a local business spotlight. There are some amazing entrepreneurs in our community starting up their own businesses, and I want to take this opportunity to expose my enormous multi-million person audience to one business here in
Junquial, Playa Negra.
Really captured my heart, which is here. I'll stop talking. Here we go, folks.
Are you in the Junquial, Playa Negra, or Playa Avellanas area, and do you have a dirty car like me? Well, come see the guys here at Master Clean in Paraíso de Santa Cruz, Guanacaste. These guys do amazing work here out of their home. They also come to you with Servicio Express también. They can come out and clean your car at your place of business. They do amazing work. I've got their phone number and we'll put it at the bottom of the screen here. Everybody's got their car dirty in Guanacaste, and these muchachos here at Master Clean are your solution. Have a great day. That's our local business highlight for the week.
By the way, I am not compensated for promoting that particular business. Those guys are doing great work. We're going to continue to have little snippets on businesses in our area thrown into Costa Rica Matt broadcasts as we go into the future. Next on my incredible Guanacaste experiences and the things that I've been able to do here, I'm going to talk a little bit about animal husbandry. And really, again, going back to my childhood in Indianapolis, where we did have dogs and cats, but really you were limited in what you could do with your lawn. It's been incredible to move to a country where you can basically where you have the opportunity for, let me see, I've got to remove this and let's get that back on there. Where you've got an opportunity to do a lot of work with animals. And in particular, over the years, Anne-Marie and I have done goats. This is the matriarch of what was our entire goat lineage. Her name was Chuti. We've had chickens. We've also done ducks. And one of the craziest things for me has been that we did want to improve our diets when we moved to Costa Rica. We are omnivores. And once I had been exposed to certain things in Peace Corps, plus being able to gain some local knowledge, we've also been able to enjoy the fruits of our labor with animal husbandry and put fresh chicken, duck, and goat on the table at different times. And it's something I would have never expected to do growing up where I did and coming down to Costa Rica. But it's something that, yeah, trying to solve a problem and get better meat, plus the opportunity of being here in Guanacaste, we took advantage. We sort of tiptoed into the whole field of animal husbandry. We started out with a few laying hens. Eventually, we moved on to ducks. Eventually, we moved on to goats. And really, we just sort of tiptoed also into the other side of things, that meat production. But it's been an interesting aspect of our lives here. I wish I had a picture. I couldn't find one for this broadcast. One of the the craziest moments of our animal husbandry careers has actually come repeatedly when the local biodiversity comes down the hill from our woods and we get boas that like to go after our chickens. I've been up at 2 a.m. in the morning trying to get a boa constrictor into a garbage can so that I can relocate it after it's gone after my chickens. I really wish I would have had a camera ready for one experience where Anne-Marie was, we were trying to get a boa out of our chicken enclosure and it had gotten tangled up in the roof. And she got so tired of it, she ditched the rake she was working with, grabbed it by the tail, and was literally just trying to pull this thing out so that we could get back to bed. So that's the kind of experience we've had. And it's really, trust me, enriched our lives a whole heck of a lot. Finally, the last incredible experience I want to talk about here in Guanacaste has been building our home, and in addition to that, creating our landscape. This has been a labor of love, sweat, tears, etc. We started building our home about 10 years ago, and we originally had it would have been about 330 square feet. I'm going to bring up a picture now of our home more recently, but not today. This was after we had added on the front deck to our house, but before we had done another project. And really, this has been one of the top reasons we have loved living and working here so much. This is our design for a home. And I say that, we did not need something absolutely spectacular. It has the airflow that we want. We're tucked away into the woods, and we've been able to create our own existence really bit by bit over the years. This picture was probably taken 4 or 5 years ago, and I want to show you how we've added some fruit trees. So this was the entrance a long time ago. Let's say, oh wow, we didn't even have the roof extension. So that was probably 7, 8, if not 10 years ago on our looking up the pathway. Here we are today. And, essentially most of the trees that you see in the foreground, this big tree on our left, this over here is a citrus, this is a carambola tree, this palm tree right here, let's see if we can spot it. That palm tree was this big in this picture over here. Hopefully the cursor is coming through, and you can see that on the right-hand side of this photo, the massive palm tree was only about 1.5 feet, 2 feet tall about 10 years ago. So you can see just how crazily things have changed. Let me go back here, and to give you another little glimpse, here is one side of our house, again, probably about 8 or 9 years ago. Actually, this was when Jonas had been born. So we can say 8 or 9 years ago. And then once we've added trees, you can see the absolute difference. On this picture, first of all, you can see there was this mango tree is on the absolute right-hand side of the picture. It is, again, about 2.5, 3 feet tall. And now look at it on your right-hand side here. This is after we've cut back this mango tree a ton of times. It's actually been boxed in and really reduced overall in size. To go to that picture again and look at another tree, let me see here. If you look far to the left, on this side of the picture, there is no tree above our house, nor even close. And again, if you look here, there's an ojoche tree. This is a Ramon nut, and it's grown up above what is now the second story of our house. So that tree and the landscaping around it, almost everything was planted when I was at about, a foot or 2 or 3 tall. It's all grown up around our house. And it's been incredibly satisfying to go from that 330 square foot house, adding on little rooms bit by bit, but also really creating our landscape. We grew up our hedges so that now we have total privacy. We now have 4 different kinds of citrus and probably a half dozen kinds of native fruiting plants around our house. Everything is beautifully shaded. When I sit on my porch, I look out and I've got the feeling that everything has been put together and that really it's something that we created. And that's been one of the absolute top experiences living here in Guanacaste. I can understand how when people come and rent here for a little while, they can really end up not as interested or really not enjoying the country as much as possible, simply because you don't get to do your own projects, you don't get to do your own landscaping, and really you don't get to invest your energy into something in the same way that you could do so with your own property. If you're interested in getting in touch with me to discuss getting your own property here in Costa Rica, you can always email me at matt@costaricamatt.com. I promise to show you a video of one of my absolute top single moments from Peace Corps, and really a top moment from Costa Rica in altogether. This is from 2009, about 16 years ago. The kids and I had been working for months on getting this little band together. And this was our concert playing at halftime of a soccer game in the town's soccer, in the Plaza Deportiva of our local community. I can't tell you how much work went into this. These kids had not played music instruments, and we started from absolute scratch. We had some very basic percussion instruments, and really, to be honest, it took a long time for us to get this together. Here is us marching out to the Plaza Deportiva, playing a concert, and again, one of my absolute top moments from living and working here 16 years in Guanacaste. Enjoy.